Hey guys, this is Lindsay Doe and let's talk unemployment. Today's issue is refusing work and the three elements you must meet in order to qualify for unemployment benefits. Now, as you all know, I did mention this in the last video. In order to be qualified for unemployment for refusing work, you do have a lot of hoops to jump. There is three elements in which you must meet in order to qualify. Those three elements are: did you have good cause for refusing work? Was this work suitable employment? And did you try all alternatives before refusing work? I'm also going to be covering one example, just so you know how it works. If you find my video helpful, please subscribe, like, and visit my sponsors, which is vitchef.com, a free food listing platform for chefs and restaurants. Mechanical keyboard, if you're having issues with your wrist or you're typing too much, you can go ahead and check them out. You can customize keyboards to your liking. I have a mechanical keyboard and I really like it. And the third app, it's called Extra Hours. It's not sponsored, but I feel like you guys could use it. This is an app for people who are looking for work. If you're an employer needing employees, you can also register on Extra Hours. All right, let's get started. Now, the three criteria that you must meet is whether or not you have good cause for refusing work. What is good cause? Good cause is a compelling reason in which a reasonable person who genuinely wants to work will place the same restriction if placed in the same situation. Good cause would be you are refusing work because you have a medical condition. If you're over 65 and you are being affected by COVID-19, anything COVID-19 related is constituted as good cause. The second element in which you must satisfy is that you have to make all reasonable possible alternatives and attempts to keep your work before refusing work. The third criteria unemployment looks at is suitable work, whether or not the employment offer was suitable in the same capacity, the same work that the claimant is used to working, with the same pay and conditions. Now, there are 5 elements to suitable employment. Unemployment has to meet all of these 5 criteria in order to establish that a real bona fide work offer was offered to the claimant. The first element is whether or not an opening exists. If it's not a bona fide work offer, there is no eligibility issue. The second element is whether or not the offer is genuine. A hypothetical question of, would you consider going back to work with us if we have a job for you? That is not a genuine offer, and so therefore there's no eligibility issue and you would be qualified for unemployment. Now, the third element is whether or not the claimant received the offer, and this is by phone or by email. So if the employer called the claimant's phone and the phone voicemail is full and the claimant never received the phone offer, there is no eligibility issue and you would therefore be eligible for unemployment. Element number 4 is whether or not the claimant received sufficient information about the job, whether or not the employer provided a start to work date. If there is no start to work date, there is no eligibility issue. Whether or not the employer provided hours worked, how much you will be paid, the conditions in which you are working, and whether or not the job is suitable for the claimant, meaning the job is in the same capacity or the same experience that the claimant is used to working. If none of this exists, then the claimant would be found eligible if they refuse the job. Now, if the claimant is asked to work with the employer at the same capacity, meaning the same job, the same experience as you did previously, the employer is not required to notify you about the pay, the conditions, because reasonably you would be aware of how much you're being paid and what you would be doing. So therefore, you would be disqualified um, if the employer meets all of this criteria. To sum it all up, if the unemployment department cannot show that all these 5 elements are present in your job offer, there is no eligibility issues and you will be automatically eligible for refusing work because this work was not a bona fide offer of work. Now, if the EDD department can show all 5 of these elements, then they will proceed into looking at whether or not you have a compelling cause for refusing work and whether or not you made all possible alternative to try to keep your job before refusing work. I'm going to go ahead and provide some examples for you so you know exactly what this means. In this example, do I qualify if I did not receive the work offered because I moved? This is not a compelling reason. If your employer indicated to you that this is a temporarily layoff, it is your responsibility to notify your employer if you move residence. Therefore, you would be disqualified for refusing work without good cause. Do I qualify for unemployment if I refuse work due to not having childcare due to COVID-19 closing the schools? Having COVID-19 closing the schools and not having childcare is a compelling reason for refusing work. However, in order to qualify for unemployment, you must be able and available for work. Because this is an availability issue, unemployment would ask you further whether or not you exhaust all reasonable efforts in securing childcare before refusing work. If you did not explore all your options and refuse work, this does not constitute good cause. If you are not the primary caregiver and still refuse work to take care of your kids, this would also end up in a disqualification. Or if you do not want to put your kids in a different childcare just because you have certain preferences, this also would not constitute good cause and you would be found disqualified. Refusing work due to medical quarantine. Do I qualify? Well, if it's for medical quarantine, unemployment would ask you to provide some sort of medical documents from a professional. If you do not have any sort of documents to back up your proof, most likely you would be disqualified just because you do not have medical advice and therefore made a false assumption without good cause to refuse genuine work. If you refuse work due to being sick on COVID-19, again, unemployment would ask you to provide medical documents. And if found that you are unable to work, unemployment will most likely ask you to file for disability because you are unable to work. For unemployment, you must be able to work and available for work. And if you do have a professional advice to not report to work, you would therefore qualify and receive more benefits on disability than unemployment. Please pay attention that you can only receive one or the other. You cannot receive UI and DI. Other reasons that do not constitute compelling good cause would be refusing work because your car breaks down, refusing work because you want to be on vacation, refusing work because you want to collect unemployment benefits and not going to work. So please do not pose any kind of restrictions unless you have to, and please pay attention that if you can accept work, you should, because once you refuse work, the employer will hire new employees and you will end up losing your work. Unemployment would only last, the $600 would only last until July 25th. So if you can make it to work, I suggest that you do try to work with your employer to explore other options before refusing work. If you do have a medical conditions and you refuse work, but you did not talk to your employer perhaps on working remotely, and if this option is available, you would be disqualified because you could have worked remotely and you didn't try to work with your employer to explore other work options. Next example, if I receive the same job offer from my employer as previously worked, however, my employer is putting us on furlough, meaning we're working for 5 days a week but only paid for 3 days per week. If I refuse work, do I qualify? And the answer is most likely yes, you do qualify, because now the conditions slash pay is now reduced to 20% or more. If nothing has changed, I know for a fact that if your pay is reduced by 20% or more, if you refuse work, you would be found eligible because 20% or more is a substantial number. However, due to the COVID-19 and millions of people not having employment, I'm not sure if EDD has changed its criteria, so please do your due diligence and do a lot of research. So I hope that this has been a helpful video. I know that this video has not been very clear cut just because I wasn't really organized this time. It is actually 2 a.m. right now. So if I didn't answer some of your questions or if you're confused, feel free to post below of your questions, and then I'm going to cover it on my next video, which I will post up on next Tuesday. All right. I will be uploading just every week on Tuesdays now. So sorry about that. It's just life has been really busy, and I've been working on the free food listing platform called bitchef.com. Please do check it out. That would help me a lot. And I will upload more videos to introduce you guys to my personal life, such as my hobby of doing plantings. I love succulents. I love fiddle fig leaf tree. I'm going to be posting more singing videos. Perhaps this time I'm going to be singing an English song, just so you guys could understand me instead of the regular Vietnamese songs that I have been posting up in the past.